I think most of you probably know me. My name's Martin, the eldest. I'd like to thank everybody for coming, especially those who've travelled a long way to come today. It's a great turnout of friends, family, and mixture of theatre, work, people from the past. I'm just going to say a couple of quick words. Dad really doesn't like any sort of formality or making a fuss. Just likes to crack on with drinking the beers, which we will do again afterwards. But I think this occasion warrants it. It's a big milestone. So, Robert John McCarthy.
That's me.
He was actually born right in the middle of World War II.
He caused it.
Yes, right in the middle of the Blitz. 20th of August 1942 at the Fevre Hospital in Semaphore, just down the coast. The Fever. Sorry, I was trying to use my French pronunciation there. The Fevre. He was born to Vincent and Molly McCarthy, affectionately known as Molly and Mac. And at the time they were boarding with Mr. and Mrs. O'Grady. And they shortly after moved to Kadina, which is 2 hours north of Adelaide. And that's where Dad grew up. Went to the Catholic primary school and on to Kadina High School, where he was a brilliant scholar there, of course. And then he went on to his first job at Dalgetty's in Kadina. And that was as a stock agent. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I assume that he was counting sheep on the back of the truck or smoking cigarettes or something. So then he transferred out to Lameroo, and he was out there for his 21st birthday working for Dalgetty's. Then he decided he wanted something more, so he thought, well, let's move to the big smoke, Adelaide. And he started a company which was back then known as Mutual Health, now known as Mutual Community. I'm sure they've been bought out a number of times since, but I think they still exist. Bupa, yes, we have them in the UK as well, so that's a global thing these days. He started at Mutual Health in 1964, and then he took a second job to get a deposit for a house at the Southwark Hotel. And that was owned at the time by Maisie and Bob Quinn, who some of you would invariably know. Dad worked at Mutual Health and Mutual Community then for 33 years. And Dad retired, at least for the first time, in 1997. I know Dad always wanted to retire when he was 55. I'm not quite sure why that was the case. But he always had this thing about retiring when he was 55. And he could do that, but then he went on to work for Ansett, the Kidney Foundation, Westpac, Bedford Industries. So he technically retired 5 times. These days he's still doing a little bit of volunteer work, and he's making a fantastic cappuccino up at Flinders Medical Centre these days. He calls himself a barista. Not quite sure what that means, but nonetheless. So as you would all know, Dad's been, music has played a very big part in Dad's life. He started very early, and he was tutored on the piano by Eileen Mary Daly. May she rest in peace. And incidentally, she was also my first piano teacher. Unfortunately, I didn't keep up the piano when Dad did. There was always a lot of music in the house when I was growing up, and when us kids were growing up. And I'm not sure if we really appreciated it as much at the time, but it really was a fantastic thing to have a musical dad in the family. And of course, a lot of you know Dad's been heavily involved in the theatre throughout his life. Starting at the Therry Society, I think mostly acting there, and then at St Jude's Players down at Brighton, where he's involved with acting, writing and composing music for plays, doing musical direction, set design, and also directing some of his own productions. And as you probably most know, he's the treasurer and a life member of St Jude's. Dad's always been a family man as well. We've been a close-knit family throughout the years. That family is now growing again with some grandchildren, and he's the proud grandfather of Oscar. Where are you, Oscar? There he is, hiding in the corner. And of course, Finlay, as a recent addition, and Fraser, who is just on 3 months old. I do remember Dad at some of the parties we used to go to when we were younger, and I know Dad would spend more time with the babies than he would with the adults. We've actually, as a family, prepared a small montage, which we're going to display up on the big screen here. So make yourself comfortable, make sure that you can see the screen, and we'll say a couple of words after that. Starting with Harold Manier, who I'm sure most of you know, someone who Dad has been working with for literally many decades in St Jude's Players. And I'd like to hand over to Harold to say a couple of words. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Do you know there's an old theatrical saying that says, never appear on stage with children or animals. These days it should be never appear on stage with videos and iPads. How do I follow that? Congratulations, that was really terrific. Robert and I have been friends now for nearly 45 years, and that friendship started, of course, in the theatre. He played a doctor in my Ferry Society production of a play called Collapse of Stout Party. I've often wondered why Ferry gave me that play to direct with Stout Party at the title. Discovering that Robert played a very cool piano, I enticed him down to St Jude's Players of Brighton, where he became musical director for one of their big productions of a melodrama, Love Rides the Rails. Thankfully, he went on to be musical director for many of their productions, and luckily for me, composed the full score for some of my musical plays, in particular in The Shadow of St Pat's and The Ballad of Miracle Nick. Our wives, Brenda and Deirdre, thought they'd struck a Rodgers and Hammerstein partnership. Instead, they titled us the Mini-Mac production. Not only was Robert a great musical asset to the theatre, but he also developed into one of the most creative and successful directors on the Adelaide scene. Who will ever forget plays like Mine in Winter, Cat on the Hot Tin Roof, Agnes of God, Jerry's Girls, and most recently his sensitive and brittle production of Doubt. Yes. He has been heard to say that Doubt is his swan song. He certainly hoped not, Robert. Look at me, I've had more swan songs than Ellie Miller and John Farnham put together. Robert's talent as a director is only matched, or should I say, surpassed, by his great ability to be a friend. All of us here today, and many others, have experienced that friendship for a long time, and have found it always on hand and most supportive. Rummaging through some Robert McCarthy memorabilia the other day, which I've been doing, I came across the script in The Shadow of St Pat's. Now, Robert wrote all the music for this to my lyrics, for want of a better word. A particular song was in this show, and it was sung by a gang of kids who lived in the west end of Adelaide in the early 1900s. Somehow, the words for this song sum up the wonderful friendship that we all share and appreciate with Robert. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing.
You're not Richard to sing?
I saw some terrible... To be a friend, you've got to say, how do you do, and then turn on a smile. To be a friend, you've got to say pretty true and then stay round for a while. Please be bright and cheerful if your power is blue. There's no use being careful if a joke will pull him through. To be a friend, you've got to go all the way. Stand by until the end. There's naught in being friendless, but the benefits are endless if you learn to be a friend. Thank you.